Well, right, beautiful. Anybody else from outside Johannesburg? Dr. Mervyn Druin. We can't hear you, Mervyn. If you can unmute, where about are you?
Hi, I'm calling from, I'm here in London.
London. Wow, what an international show we have tonight. London and Jerusalem and Atlanta. And by the way, there's a few of us in a very special place called Glen Hazel, Johannesburg. I see David Shapiro is connected. I think he's from Cape Town.
Oh, they also.
So very welcome, everybody. Now I want to.
Arnold, sorry, can we just find out how the people are connected to Joel? We know that Mervyn is Joel's brother, the dentist in London, who joined us at a brocha at Sandringham Gardens a year or two ago. The Reinsbergs in Atlanta, how are you connected to?
I'm Joel's sister.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, Frank's his brother-in-law.
What's your name?
Denise.
Okay, fantastic. Jonathan Moch, who are you exactly?
Okay, so I'm the pen pal. So remember when I was in high school or primary school, I had a pen pal. It's Joel Druin, who we have corresponded almost every single day for the last year.
Wow.
Believe it or not, the last Kiddush was on the 7th of March. From what we know, the 3rd of March, so it's exactly a year.
Wow.
Every single night, Motzei Shabbos, Motzei Chag, Joel sends me a report. And I feel very close to him. 1 year, it's a special relationship.
Okay, fantastic. Anyway.
Ani.
Who's talking? Yeah?
Stephen Adler.
Sorry, who's talking now?
Stephen Adler.
Oh, Stephen! Stephen is in from Ranana. I forgot.
I just want to ask, if you don't mind, I just want to ask the Ringsberg.
I can't see you, Stephen. Stephen, your camera is off. And we want to see your beautiful...
I just want to ask the Ringsbergs if they originally come from Johannesburg.
Yes, we originally came from Johannesburg. We lived in Sandton, Gallo Manor.
Because my parents were very friendly with a family called the Ringsbergs, I think Bishops.
And they knew my parents?
I think so, because it was Ilse and Poldy Adler.
Oh yes, I know the Adlers.
Beautiful.
And I think you were at school at the same time as I was.
So Stephen is in Ranana, Israel, and the Rinsbergs are in Atlanta, but they're talking via Johannesburg. Isn't that wonderful?
I remember you, Stephen.
Everybody
also,
remembers.
The minute I saw you, Frank, I thought it was you.
It's a difficult guy to forget. All right, Stephen, your camera is still off. Something is wrong. Okay, let's go on. I want to give a special welcome also to Dr. Arthur Hovis. Now, Arthur and I had a very special experience this morning, because apart from me being involved in running this little Zoom session, okay, Stephen, now we can see you. Running the Zoom session, I'm also involved in running a Yiddish hour on Chai FM at 11 o'clock in the morning. And we had as one of our guests, Dr. Arthur Hovis. And you know, Arthur has been telling a joke at the Kiddush for about 3 years. And then 1 year since we started, you know, that the next month, please God, we will be running the Zoom session for an entire year. We would have been running it because we started in April. And Arthur has never repeated a joke. And Arthur, this morning's joke I had not heard before either. But what's important is that Arthur told the joke in Yiddish this morning at the Yiddish hour. So I'm inviting you, Arthur, to repeat the second joke that you told in Yiddish. Unmute yourself, Arthur, please. No,
ich kann jetzt Jiddisch reden.
Yes.
Ich rede von den Moleküljahren, die letzten Jahrhundert. In der Jid, in der litwische Städtel, hat gehabt, ein großer Mol, und er hat geschreit, und auf einer hohen Kohle, mit sehr großer Stimme, und er schreit auf den ganzen Städtel, Yankel is a Ganef, Yankel is a Ganef, Yankel is a Ganef. Der Rebbe hat das von das gehört, und er hat gesagt, das passt nicht. Es ist Loschen Hora, die muss aufhören, also das zu sagen. Ich kann es gar nicht vertragen, es ist Loschen Hora. Du kommst Freitagabend in Schule, bei Schabbos, und du stehst auf der Bibel und du sagst in die Wörter, Yankel ist nicht a Ganef. Yankel ist nicht a Ganef.
Okay, let me translate so far. So the story is that in a little shtetl, there was this Yidel, and on the top of his voice, in the middle of the square, he was shouting, Yankel is a Ganef, Yankel is a thief, Yankel is a Ganef, Yankel is a thief. And the rabbi heard it and he said, no, you can't do that. That's Lashon Hara. You can't do that. This Friday night, you're going to come to shul and you're going to go onto the bima and you're going to say these words where I'm telling you. Yankel is not a Ganef. Yankel is not a thief. You have to say these words. So what did he say, Arthur?
Das ist halt zu sagen, kommt auf den Bima und der Rebbe sagt auf ihm, Sogas, Yankel ist nicht der Ganef, Yankel ist nicht der Ganef. Ich said, okay. Nun, steht auf dem Bima und sagt, Yankel ist nicht der Ganef.
So the story goes that the rabbi says on Friday night, right, now you're going to go into the bima and you're going to say, Yankel, these words, Yankel is not a thief. He says, sure. He gets on the bima and he says, Yankel is not a thief? So the story is that with Yiddish, the intonation can tell the whole story. Thank you, Arthur, for that lovely joke. Okay, thank you. Actually, I've just remembered now, I'm looking at my notes and the rabbi asked me to play the video after his drosha, but in good tradition, one doesn't listen to the rabbi, but that was accidental. So I now, before we call on Joel, let's have the drosha by the rabbi. And you know, this is the only rabbi who's ever had a complaint that his droshas are too short. So Rabbi Fox, where are you?
Thank you, Arnold. Thank you. And I really don't mind if it's out of order.
Oh, sorry, Rabbi. Sorry, that was my mistake. I wanted to spotlight you and I unmuted you instead. There we are. Sorry, there we are.
Okay. Like I say, I really don't mind what order you do. So thank you and welcome to all our guests here tonight, and to Joel. We look forward to hearing from you shortly. So just after, now that you did play that video first, the beautiful line in that video is Zeh hayom asah Hashem nagila v'nismech avo. That this is the day that Hashem made. Let's rejoice, let's be joyful, and let's rejoice in the day. And which day are we talking about? So there's which day? So I would like to suggest that we are talking about this day, Zeh hayom, this particular day. What is this day? Every day, this day that we find ourselves in. And what is King David telling us? This day, every day that we find ourselves in, we should rejoice and be happy. Be happy with our lot in our lives. Be happy with the Torah that Hashem has given us, and be happy with the mitzvahs. And we see in the Pasha, Ki Tisah, that when Moshe Rabbeinu was on the mountain receiving the Luchot, Hashem told him that the people had rebelled with the golden calf. And Moshe took the Luchot, and it was only when he saw the people dancing around the calf with happiness that he broke the Luchot. And Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky asks the question, why did he wait to break the Luchot? Why didn't he break the Luchot immediately when Hashem informed him of what the Jewish people were doing? And the answer is that Moshe at that time thought, well, maybe they were desperate. Maybe they felt that I've left them. Maybe they felt Hashem had left them, and they did something out of desperation. But when he actually went down and he saw them dancing around the calf, he saw that they were happy with what they were doing. It wasn't just out of desperation. They were actually rejoicing in their idolatry. And that really upset him so much so that he needed to break the Luchot. So we see that rejoicing and dancing and being happy with what you are doing reflects how you feel about it. And that's what upset Moshe Rabbeinu so much, that they were rejoicing. But we have to do exactly the opposite. We have to rejoice in the goodness that Hashem has given us. We have to rejoice with the mitzvahs that Hashem has given us. And if we don't, the Torah tells us that if we're not happy in our lives and we're not happy with what Hashem has given us, that's a really tragic thing. And in fact, in Parshat Ki Tavo, it says that Hashem punishes us for not doing his mitzvahs b'simcha. So we can even learn from the negative behavior of Bnei Yisrael with the golden calf, that they did something negative b'simcha. We need to turn that around, and everything we do positive in life should not just be by rote, just by habit, without any feeling. We should actually learn from their behavior that when we are serving Hashem, that we should do it b'simcha, with zrizut, with enthusiasm and with love. And that truly turns an action into something which is so meaningful, so positive, and so happy. And that's how our service of Hashem should be, ba'ava u b'simcha, with love and with joy, the way that Ruvain sang it in that beautiful song. You're on mute, Arnold.
Thank you for your drosha, Rabbi. Thank you for your beautiful drosha. I only have, as I said, I only got one complaint about your droshas. They're too short. You're the only rabbi. All right, now let's move over now to our special guest today, which is Joel Druin. And Joel, really, you're an inspiration to us because everybody's so worried when we meet somebody that that has had this, unfortunately, this condition. It's always not so good news. But with you, you're looking well, and you've got a big smile on your face, I see, and we're really happy to have you. So we read a little bit about your story in the beautiful newsletter that Estelle publishes. Actually, I don't see Estelle here, but I'm sure she's here somewhere. I don't see Estelle. Oh, there he is. Oh, you're waving. Hello, Estelle. Yeah. And Joel, we've read your story, but tell us a little bit about how did it happen, and especially how did you feel when you got better? No, you're muted, Joel. Unmute yourself.
There we go.
There we are.
Hello, everybody. I'm very happy that I could actually talk tonight. And I'm excited that my family around the world are partaking in this Zoom meeting. I want to welcome them all to South Africa again. I must tell you how the story started. On the 29th of January at 10 to 10 in the evening, I got a phone call from my sister in Atlanta who told me that my mother had passed away. I had been trying to get to see her for a year, and due to the COVID restrictions, I wasn't allowed out and I couldn't go anywhere. So the next morning, the first person I ran to was Rabbi Fox, because the Shabbos service had started, and I went in and told him the sad news, and I wasn't allowed to stay in shul. So I went back to my room and just lay there, and my memory sort of cast back to all the good times our family had together. And I felt very lonely because I had no one to sort of talk to or share. I just sat in the room and tried to sleep a little bit, but we overcame it. The next day, on the Sunday morning, my mother was buried in the biggest storm I've ever encountered in Johannesburg. When we got to the cemetery and we walked down to the grave was virtually filled to the top with water. And we managed to get the coffin into the grave. And it was just, I thought, you know, her memory is going to flow with us forever because of the water and everything. And I was taken back straight after the funeral to the home. And immediately I got there, I was put under lockdown for 2 weeks. And I wasn't happy, but there was nothing I could do. Slowly, the 2 weeks started wearing down and getting nearer to the date to go out. And on the night before I was supposedly coming out, they came around to the ward and did a COVID test from my tongue and said they'll see me in the morning. So I got up the following morning, packed my bag, put all my little goodies in the suitcase. I was going back to my room. Early in the morning, a guy came in and said, we have to do another test up your nose. And I want to tell you, it wasn't a nice experience. I think I nearly put my hand through the mattress while he was doing it. And he said, wait here, don't go anywhere. We'll contact you in about 2 hours' time. They did the test and it came back positive, and I had full-on COVID. I was then taken with my packed bag and put in an isolation ward downstairs. And I started the journey of going through the COVID. At no time did I feel very sick or anything, except I had a bit of cramp in my stomach, and I found it a shock that I've got to spend another 2 weeks in the hospital, and I couldn't feel very sick. But as it wore on, they started the treatments. The nurses and Dr. De Bruin were unbelievable. And I had to stay there under their treatments. And all I got was the food. And they came in twice a day to give me a cupful of tablets. And when I inquired what they were, I was told they're different vitamins. That's the only thing that could they could give me. They didn't have anything else. And the other thing is my diabetes started performing in the hospital. And that was another problem because the food wasn't what it should have been, but the care was there. And it was just an unbelievable experience. I never really got sick, but I wasn't allowed out of the ward. I was totally in isolation. And the only people that came in was Dr. De Bruin and the nurses who cared for me, and they brought my food. And this went on for 2 weeks. One of the nurses went to the library and they gave her a few books for me to read because after a week I'd run out of reading matter. And I just lay there and handled it. I never performed or anything. And it was an experience I don't wish on anybody, but I was always positive, and all I wanted to do was to get out. Eventually, when they did let me out, a month in bed virtually, I couldn't even walk properly. I had 2 nurses with me, and I kept sort of losing my balance. But eventually, I got back to the room, and I got onto the bed, and I fell asleep, and that was the end of COVID. Apparently, I handled it. I didn't complain. I didn't feel any worse. The only thing is when I got back and got up the next day, I was absolutely exhausted. I had to virtually lie in my room for another few days till I sort of built up a bit of strength. And I want to tell you, people don't realize what a home we've got with the medical facilities that are available is just unbelievable. Because I believe if I lived on my own in a flat, I don't think I would have survived. Because I was already on lockdown and they picked it up straight away. And all I could say is thanks to the Chev for looking after me during that whole period. And that's the story. I'm not going into the nitty-gritties or all the medication and that, but I came out of there healthy and I'm smiling and I'm very happy to be back in my room.
Baruch Hashem.
Enjoyed that story.
Joel, how are you feeling now?
I get very tired during the day. I do sleep a lot during the day, but they told me that'll wear off eventually. What I do now in the mornings, I get up early, and before I have breakfast, I go for a walk 1.5 times around the whole complex. And that takes me 3/4 of an hour. And then I sit down in the front of the building in the sun, and I sit there for another hour, and then I come back and do what I have to do. And I'm starting to feel a lot better.
So, Rabbi, is Joel permitted to come into shul or not at this point in time? Rabbi Fox, can you hear me?
I can go. I've been to 1 or 2 services. And, you know, as I get better, I'll start doing the Haftorahs again and that.
Well, yeah, I wanted to mention that you know, you learned the Haftorahs in a rather advanced time of your life, and you've done it not only beautifully, but you even taught 1 or 2 people how to do the Haftorahs.
And I did 2 guys, taught them to have a bar mitzvah. Both of them were in their 30s and they hadn't had a bar mitzvah yet.
Kol hakavod to you, really.
Fox helped me. We got them to do their portions, and I stood on the bimah with them. And that was a nice experience for everybody and for their families.
Kol hakavod to you. Dr. Moch, you've been in close contact with Joel. So how about a 2-minute summary of your experience with him?
Well, I want to put it out public. I see Joan Porter there is a grammatician, but I really believe that the material that Joel has shared with me is worthy of a book. It's really worthy of a book. And it's not just he stay in lock and his fortitude. And I mean, there's a lot of stories, but there was about a month, Joel, every day he sent me his travel log of China and Amsterdam, and we won't go into details, but it just has been, it's an incredibly, I can say it's one of the highlights of this year, is this relationship with Joel. And Joel sometimes lets it out. You know, he's struggled, and I can't imagine that he was actually in solitary confinement. He was in solitary confinement, and that, I mean, how you come out smiling that your mother that you could, and you told me for months you couldn't see your mother, who was 97, I think, 97, 98. Yeah. You couldn't see her. And then you have the funeral and your shiva, can you believe your shiva is in isolation. And then 2 weeks later, somehow you picked up the COVID and you put into more isolation. So your shloshim, your 30 days almost, was spent in isolation, and you still come out smiling and positive. That is a huge chizuk. There, you are an honorary rabbi because I found such inspiration from you. So thanks, Arnold, for letting me speak for a few minutes.
Well, I just want to tell you that Dr. Moch, for those who don't know, he's a psychiatrist, and therefore he understands people's minds, and Joel, he understands your mind as well. Fantastic. All right. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Jonathan. That is Dr. Jonathan. I'm going to now move out. And by the way, welcome to Jeff Levenstein. I see that Jeff is here, joined us for the first time. Hello, Jeff. Welcome everybody else that I haven't welcomed today. Now, we're going to move over to Yerushalayim right now. We are Yidden in South Africa, but we feel so close to Israel. So we want to know what is happening there. And we've got our reporter, our own reporter, Dr. Liz Glassman. People think that he's a doctor in political science, but actually he's a dentist. So, you know what? I'd rather listen to political science than have my teeth drilled. So Liz, over to you. What's the latest in Israel?
Thanks, Arnie. You can have both. You can have your teeth drilled and listen to the political science at the same time. No, but I'll tell you, you know, Israel's always been known as the startup nation, and then we were the vaccination nation, and now, unfortunately, we became the isolation nation, because for the last 6 weeks, we've basically been isolated. Ben Gurion's been closed, and you can't enter or leave, except for very special circumstances. And Baruch Hashem, on Sunday, they're going to be opening up Ben Gurion much more. 3,000 Israelis who've been literally stranded in different countries all over the world will be allowed to return, and Israelis will be allowed to leave as well. So the Ben Gurion is starting to open, and the lockdown has been eased. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel coming. But I'm just going to show you guys all. I don't know if you can see it here. Here's today's Jerusalem Post. I think it's quite interesting to see. And you know, when you read the paper, you don't know if you want to laugh or cry, because the headline is that the ICC prosecutor announces formal probe into Israel war crimes. And you know, if you think about it, our northern neighbor, Syria, there's a civil war raging as we speak, and hundreds of thousands of civilians have been killed, but they're not being investigated. But here, Israel, they was defending themselves, you know, in Gaza. So the ICC have made this a priority to investigate Israel. And but this we'll speak about later, and it's an ongoing process, and it's going to take a long time. So this has really, it's a lot of countries, thank God, are realizing how serious this is, because if it happens to Israel, it's like the canary in the cage, it can happen to them as well. So America are very against it, and a few EU countries and Australia and Canada have shown that they are also demonstrated that they're very against this decision. But what happened, and this is also on the front page of the paper, I don't know if it's been reported in South Africa, but they say that there was a Libyan ship, there was actually a rogue Libyan ship that traveled from Iran, filled with tar and oil, and it dumped the tar and oil on the Israeli shore. And it's caused an environmental disaster. It's a catastrophe. It's like an eco-terrorism. And what's amazing with this terrible situation is that we yet to hear about Greenpeace and all the NGOs who are worried about environmental issues. Here we have a real eco-terrorism, and all these so-called Greenpeace and they silent on the matter. So the army and people are actually they're actually trying to collect the tar and they're trying to clean up. It's going to be a mammoth task, but what can we do? The sad thing is that a lot of fish, a lot of very, very special species have been actually decimated by this tar. It's caused a tremendous disaster here. And they point, Gala is the environmental minister, Gamliel. She's actually with the Mossad. They've actually pinpointed that it's very possible that it's coming from Iran, that they're the masterminds behind it. But it's coming on for Shabbos, and we want to go with the good news. Now, there is breaking news, some very positive breaking news, that we have the Austrian Chancellor. He actually managed to come to Israel, Sebastian Kurz, and the Danish Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen. And they went with Netanyahu today to various gyms, and they went in Modi'in, and they are so impressed with what's been happening with the vaccination and the green passport. And the Austrian Chancellor said that the world is looking to Israel with admiration. It was amazing to hear this. And the Danish Prime Minister said that she is extremely inspired by Israel's ability to roll out these vaccines so effectively. Now, somebody who isn't so happy with what's been happening with Austria and Denmark is the French Prime Minister, President Macron. He's actually very upset because he said that the EU should be united. And when you have two countries that are very pro-Israel, so he's a bit upset that they came to Israel and that they're showing such admiration. Another amazing positive development, I don't know if it's been reported in South Africa, but this was a phenomenal story where we just had a judoka, with the lockdown and everything, they did allow sportsmen to come into Israel. And they had a championship, the World Judoka Championship in Tel Aviv, and an Iranian, he was the 2018 world champion, Saed Moleh, and he actually defected after the Tokyo, what happened in Tokyo, they had a championship over there, and he was told he can't fight against the Israeli opponents. He has to give up the game, and he wants to defect, and he came to Israel, and he's developed a very, very close friendship with his Israeli counterpart, Sagi Muki, who was, and here we see both of them, and Sagi was the 2019 World Championship. He's the champion from 2019, and these two have developed a tremendous, tremendous friendship. And they're going to be making a documentary and series on their amazing friendship and how it developed and how it's continued. So from Israel, there's been, it's an amazing thing when we see what's happening where you have countries that are pro, against, but we know Hashem rules the world, and what will be with these investigations. It's nothing new. We had the Goldstone investigation, the ICC now are probing, but Hashem runs the world, and we just have to govern that Hashem will help us, and we have got friends out there, and we must all stand united. And it's just amazing. Thank God the mood in Israel with the lockdown now being eased and Ben Gurion opening up after 6 weeks, there's a lot of positivity. So I want to wish you all a Shabbat Shalom, and Arnie, thanks so much for this amazing program, and it's good to see you, Jonathan. We go back many, many years.
Thank you, Liz. It's always beautiful to hear your report. Okay, for those visitors that have not been with us before, just like we've got a lot of things of our own, we've got our own reporter in Jerusalem, and that's Liz. We've got our own rabbi, of course. Sometimes we have our own psychiatrist. But one thing that we've got our own is our own Kohen Gadol as well. And that's going to be our final item on tonight. And I'm not sure, I sent you a message, Jeff, but I don't know whether you're going to give us the Kohen Brocha or you're going to sing a song for us. So either of the two, a song or a Kohen Brocha, will be welcome. Unmute yourself, Jeff.
Good evening, everybody. Nice to see all of you. Joel, it was so wonderful having such good news. It gives chizuk and strength to everybody else. And Les, as usual, superb. Thank you. It was really lovely. And Rabbi, I'm not leaving you out. Excellent. We are going into Shabbos, and we must end with something joyful, because that's what Shabbos is about. As it was just pointed out, every day is important. And we're going to Shabbos now, and we honor it. And I'm going to just do a couple of verses of this little nigun, and I hope you enjoy it. Yom ze mekubad mikol yamim ki v'shabbat zu alamim. Yom ze mekubad mikol yamim ki v'shabbat zu alamim. Sheis yamin tasem latecha malachtecha. Yom hashvi leilakecha. Shabbos asase bo melacha ki kol asa shesh yamim shesh yamin ay yom ze mekubat mikol yamim ki v'shabbat zu alamim. Yom ze mekubat mikol yamim ki v'shabbat zu alamim. Orishon hu mikre kodesh Yom Shabbos and Yom Shabbos kodesh Shabbos kodesh Al ken kolish bein yekadesh Al stay lechem yetzu tamimim ay Yom ze mekubat mikol yamim ki v'shabbat zu alamim. Yom ze mekubat mikol yamim ki v'shabbat zu alamim. O shashmayim sarapim koidoi gavoidoi. Gam haaretz molachastoi Ui kiko eile ostoi yadoi Adoi ki hohatzo pol samim ay ze mekubat mikol yamim ki v'shabbat zu alamim. Yom ze mekubat mikol yamim ki v'shabbat zu alamim.
Yeah.
Go with strength.
Shkayach, Jeff. And good Shabbos to everyone. Arnold's on mute, so I can get the last word. Good Shabbos, everyone.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you. A very special thank you to our visitors from overseas, Atlanta, London, Jerusalem, Ranana. I think I didn't leave anybody out. I think Cape Town is also here. Thank you. You can all, I'll leave it on for another few minutes so that we can all wish each other good Shabbos. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you. Shabbos, everyone.
Good Shabbos, Rob.
Welcome to join us next week, Jeff.
I'll be back next week. No question about it. Thanks for the message.
Bye, Denise and Mervyn.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Rabbi.
Mervyn,
Thank
do you know that Liz Blossman is a dentist as well?
So I gather. And I hope he's a member of Alpha Liga.
And Les, let me tell you something that Mervyn Druin if I remember correctly, one of the Prime Minister's teeth, and I'm just trying to remember which one. I forgot which one. Blair, Tony Blair?
It was Gordon Brown.
Gordon Brown.
There you go.
Yes, did you hear that?
Yeah.
I see Arnold Orkin is on. Is he still there? Arnie, do you remember me? We were at primary school together.
Have a wonderful Shabbos. Please, who are you?
Mervyn Druin.
Mervyn Drew, I remember you exactly. You stayed near the Greenside shop.
There you go. Yes.
Who had the shop in Mayfair? Your uncle or your dad?
My Uncle Eddie.
Oxford Furnishers. Oxford.
Eddie Brewer, my cousin, my father's first cousin.
Martha and Broca, God bless. Lovely to see you.
You too, Arnie. Lovely to see you too.
Selwyn and Helen, are you still here? Oh, Selwyn and Helen, good Shabbos. And Brenda and Norman, good Shabbos. Heather, Estelle, thank you for the newsletter as usual. Ben and Toby, Sheila, Aubrey, whose ceiling is looking very nice tonight. And L'chaim to Robbie.
L'chaim to my Uncle Robbie.
And of course my dad. My dad is always here. Every Thursday night, my dad is here.
Thank you to Joel.
I just want to thank Joel. We're very proud of you, Joel. You really came through it like a star. And it's true, you did not complain. And very happy you're healthy and well. Huh?
Lovely.
Thank you for joining us from Atlanta.
Thank you. That was really wonderful. Thanks.
Okay.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
And anybody that wants to join us, we are here every Thursday at 7:30. Cheerio. Bye-bye. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Dr. Mo. Bye. Cheerio. Bye. Bye.